Welcome to Mindshift. I'm Brandon, and happy Thanksgiving. Last year on this day, I did this video here, what an atheist has to be thankful for, and I mainly honed in on meaning and where an atheist can still find and create their meaning even without this God-given meaning. It was tied into Thanksgiving and being grateful, and yet the main criticism from Christians who watched it and critiqued it was, well, who are you being grateful to? What, yourself, the world, the universe? And they said it sarcastically, and it was obvious that they didn't think there was any way to be grateful without a God. And so that's what I want to talk about a year later. Gratitude without God. This will be a pretty quick video, but I just want to share with you the importance of gratitude. We'll talk about some of the psychology behind gratitude. We'll look at some quick studies and see what it does for people. We'll talk about gratitude without divine intervention, even the pitfalls of religious gratitude, and then some practical ways to cultivate gratitude. So just some encouragement for you on this wonderful day. So happy Thanksgiving, and let's dive in. I want to start by defining gratitude or redefining gratitude. Again, maybe this video is more for people that have recently deconstructed or recently deconverted, and you're facing your first Thanksgiving without a God. But gratitude is completely normal, completely natural. It is a psychological or emotional state where one can recognize the positive outcomes or aspects of their life, whether they stem from others or circumstance or even, and it's okay, luck, a feeling of thankfulness and appreciation. I think what bugs me about this is the fact that religion will so often co-opt, if not downright steal, and claim for themselves natural human phenomenon, natural human psychology. Being grateful is a tool. It allows us to be selfless, which is needed, even selfishly, for I scratch your back, you scratch mine. It's the awareness of the utility of working together. It doesn't have to be grounded in a God. It's grounded in reality. It's grounded in human nature, and it serves us. And I want to share with you briefly some studies of what people have found. A seminal study by Dr. Robert Emmons and Dr. Michael McCullough found that people who kept a weekly gratitude journal reported 25% higher levels of happiness, as well as better physical health, including fewer headaches and improved sleep. Participants were asked to write down a few things they were grateful for each week, and after 10 weeks, they reported being more optimistic about their lives and had fewer visits to doctors. Another study published in Psychotherapy Research found that individuals who wrote gratitude letters as part of therapy experienced significant improvements in mental health, even weeks after the study ended. And more specifically, what they found was that gratitude reframes negative thoughts. We are how we think, what we think, the framing in which we consider what our thoughts are. It's effectively interrupting cycles of rumination that are associated with depression or anxiety. A few more studies, it is shown to strengthen relationships. Research from the University of North Carolina emphasizes the find, remind, and bind theory of gratitude. Expressing gratitude strengthens bonds between people, reminding them of their shared connection and reinforcing mutual care. A quick example they note in the study is just saying thank you to a friend or loved one for the smallest of acts, something you wouldn't normally say thank you for, and a more sincere thank you than just a quick, oh, thanks. Hey, thank you. I noticed that. That means a lot. I really appreciate that. I know it's small, but seriously, thank you. It was noted to boost that relationship connection and enhance trust. Gratitude is a cognitive exercise, not a spiritual one. Now, if you want to use the word spiritual a little bit more loosely, maybe I should say not a religious one. It requires awareness and mindfulness, contemplation and reflection, all things that are phenomenally good for us. We know this. One of my favorite areas to read about is this branch called positive psychology, if you're not familiar, and kind of the father or founder of the positive psychology movement, Martin Seligman, created this exercise called the gratitude visit. And it's simple, just two parts. First, participants wrote a sincere letter of gratitude. Could be short, could be long, but you need to physically write it out. And then the second part was going and reading it to that person. These two acts, totally unique to each other. The first one being one of processing and again, reflection and awareness. And even just like with goal setting, the physical act of writing it out, it equals this commitment. It enhances it. It makes it more real and tangible than just thinking about it. And then taking those same words that you have pored over and been careful with and reflected on and saying them out loud to the person that that gratitude is intended for. Again, nothing but but positive gain, the studies found. Happiness boost for increases of over a month. And I'm not trying to get into the woo. I'm not talking about any kind of see it and believe it, name it and claim it, the secret kind of deal. This is how our brains work. This is how our psychology functions. Why not take advantage of it? It's a human experience. And again, one that either gets pushed to the side and forgotten except for one day a year, or one that gets completely taken over with religiosity. But quickly, let's just talk about this gratitude without divine intervention. You don't need Jesus to save your life or rescue you from the pits of hell that he was going to send you to for something you never did in the first place, that you were born cursed with, to be grateful. There are 1,000 real, natural, secular things you can be grateful for. Gratitude in human interactions, whether it's a stranger on the street that gives you a nod and makes you feel seen for the day, or a best friend, spouse, child, parent, family member that means so much to you. Let alone all of the in-between that have such a huge impact on our life, teachers and healthcare workers, the person who checks you out at the grocery store, your Uber driver. Guaranteed moments every single day to be able to practice gratitude. You can be grateful for natural circumstances. That's okay. You don't have to feel like it needs to be attached to some man in the sky. A beautiful sunset. You can still marvel at the complexity of nature without getting into some argument for deism. You can be grateful for the quality of your life, the advances in scientific improvement, the fact that you weren't born 500 years ago, which for all intents and purposes would suck for what you know and the pleasures you have. A hot shower, a consistent bed, a soft pillow. We live like kings, and we need to remember it and be grateful for it and say as much. Grateful to modern medicine, to nature, and again, like I said, to luck or chance. Surviving a car accident, you don't have to thank God. Most of the time, that doesn't even make sense. Did you thank him for the car accident in the first place? The financial hardship that it's going to put you in? Oftentimes, that car accident will lead maybe to someone else's less fortunate outcome or even death. And yeah, I get the sensation of wanting to be, I'm glad that wasn't me. But if you're thinking of God for that, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What did you do that the other person didn't, that God deserved to step in and help you? 4 children died in the last minute while I was speaking of starvation. But you're going to thank God for helping you find your car keys? But we can be grateful about the situation in general. I'm grateful I survived that. I'm grateful I'm not late to my daughter's dance recital because it means a lot to her. How lucky I am that I did find the keys. These little real moments of gratitude that don't have to go further than that. They don't have to be attached to some divine interferer. They matter. And I think they get robbed of us when everything is just this quick, thank God, an inconsistent idea about how he works in the universe. So I've started to name a few, but what are the pitfalls of religious gratitude? Well, it is this first one. It's misplaced gratitude, a problem of redirected thanks. So we've all heard this example, and I've had a few videos on cancer lately, but thanking God for surviving cancer instead of being grateful about, again, modern medicine, the advances in science, all the people that have lost their lives during the trials to get you what you needed to survive it, the healthcare professionals and staff that assisted you and took care of you, the company who hired you that gave you the benefits to be able to not go in debt for the rest of your life, living in a country where you had access to this. And yeah, there's always things not to be grateful for. Maybe it still was awful on your finances. Maybe it was still incredibly painful. But again, gratefulness is a reframing tool. And I'm not talking about some kind of toxic positivity. It's great to be mad. It's great to be angry. It's great to be sad. Feel those things. They are real, but there's a line of diminishing return where at some point we need to reframe those thoughts. And again, just going off the data here and let them work for us and not against us. But we see this misplaced gratitude all the time. The medical one is the easiest one, but natural disasters. You'll sit there and you'll thank God that you weren't one of the thousands that died in the last hurricane. Again, participating fully in this cognitive dissonance where you are essentially saying then, if God is to be thanked for saving you, then he is to be blamed for killing the other 1,000. You cannot have it both ways. But what you can be grateful for is that more people didn't die. You can be grateful to still be alive. That's okay. You can be grateful for the technology we had to get the advance notice on it so you could leave. You can be grateful that you were able to afford the home insurance that will let you replace your things. You can be grateful to the first responders who helped you or your neighbors. That's real gratitude, and it really does something in the real world. This godly gratitude so often just takes us out of the realm of reality, and we therefore miss what's really going on and who's really helping and our ability to be part of that cycle. And Again, I am not saying that no Christian knows how to be grateful to anything other than God, but I just mean there's patterns here, if we're majoring in the majors, where this appreciation for God first and then maybe everyone else gets in the way of just appreciating others because it's all we have. Thanking God for food while millions starve to death is insane. Feeling grateful that you live in a country where you don't have to fear starvation and there's a chef in the back making an amazing meal that you're going to love, and a server working hard to bring it to you while it's still warm and making sure you have what you need. Again, talk about a completely different experience. And it takes a lot of mindfulness. I mean, it's not like all non-Christians are just so blissfully aware of everything. No, of course not. It's a practice. And I'm sure there's many Christians that are good at that practice additionally, but what extra effort to make sure you go through God and still get to everyone else. When there isn't a God to thank, you only have reality. I think that's the point I'm trying to make here. Also, gratitude under threat would be the second big issue I have with religious gratitude. Gratitude is often presented as a requirement, a command, an obligation, and there's scriptural basis for this. Luke 28:47-48, because you did not serve the Lord your God joyfully and gladly in the time of prosperity, therefore in hunger and thirst, in nakedness and dire poverty, you will serve the enemies the Lord sends against you. Don't tell me it's not in God's nature. We see time and time again, just for the attitude with which one thanks this God or is joyful to this God about their circumstances, he takes them away. And if you don't think that thought is infiltrated within Christian communities, you haven't been around Christians very long. There's a superstition in Christianity that is always in the background. 1 Thessalonians 5:18, I think it is, used to be one of my favorite verses as a Christian, is give thanks to God in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus our Lord. God's will for you is no matter what, good or bad, you thank him. Even if you don't want to say it's under threat, if that seems too heavy for you, it's transactional. How sincere can transactional gratitude be? Just like the command to love God, the greatest command is to love God. See this video here if you want to see everything wrong with that, by the way. Now, not everyone thinks like this, but many Christians do think that how we are grateful will result in to what proportion we are rewarded. And often gratefulness looks like action, and you get into a prosperity gospel pretty quick. And that's pretty dangerous for a lot of reasons. And Christians try to work around this. They talk about the free gift of salvation that then they lord over you forever. Every single sermon is attached to because Christ died for you, where they make sure you know how horrendous it was, how awful you were, how blameless God was, what a sacrifice it was. This emotional manipulation, that's not free. Believing the right thing isn't even free, as if it stops there. I'm told constantly I was never a Christian because of what? My actions. I thought it was a free gift. Or you only say that to get people in, and then you immediately start judging them for their actions. Hey, you know what? You have a child who's doing this, and why aren't you coming to church? And we noticed you didn't give or volunteer in that last thing. It's very hard to have sincere love or gratitude under these conditions, and they're all spelled out in the Bible. For anything you think that Christian's doing it wrong, they can point to a verse where that's why they're doing it. That's not my problem. That's God's problem. So there's a psychological impact there for Christians who are dealing with that, again, cognitive dissonance between being grateful to God while recognizing or trying not to recognize everything else that is happened to them or happening around them, that if all glory be to God all the time for everything, that's pretty tricky. And it can lead to shame and guilt and fear and superstition. Now, contrast that with secular gratitude, totally voluntary. We don't believe we owe it to some God or some creator of the universe, and it allows it to be more genuine and thus, I think, more enriching. It's a choice we get to make. If a friend helps me and I take a minute to sincerely thank them, I'm so lucky to have someone in my life that cares about me, that wants to help me, that is willing to take time out of their day, that is willing to struggle or suffer or listen or help whatever the situation is. And I recognize you don't expect anything back, and I just want to say thanks. It means a lot. What a better use of gratitude. And again, I'm so sorry. I'm really not trying to make my own black or white fallacy. Not all Christians only do the negative one and can't do the positive one. But many Christians will try to rob the positive ones from secular people by telling us we don't have a right. Or if we do, it must be because we actually really do believe in God, if we can feel grateful and be thankful to be alive or to enjoy nature, or that all these things that we've been grateful for have actually been gifted to us from God, and we need to recognize that. No, it just continues to tear down. Real gratitude, I think, is empowering. It builds up. So what's the takeaway here? Be grateful. Make it a practice. It takes time to cultivate. I've done so mainly through journaling. I'm a huge journaler. And when you journal and you reflect on the day, it makes you more aware of the next day and what you're going to write and things of this nature. And you notice those small interactions and you take the time to write something down about what was meaningful or helpful to you. And when you're feeling that way, you're starting to already feel more grateful and you want to share that and you want to tell that person. And it does enrich those relationships. And it's beautiful. And it's one tiny example. And it's not me on my pedestal. I know everything. I'm looking for tips and learning all the time too. I want to share with you though, from what I've researched and what I've seen anecdotally on this day of Thanksgiving, for you who might be a recent deconvert or deconstructing from your old idea about what gratitude is and who it is ultimately deserved to, that it is still beneficial, it is still necessary, it is still possible, it still has wonderful outcomes for you, if not potentially better ones. And so the practical advice: journal, write it down in general. Express your gratitude, whether it is just writing it down or, better yet, in addition, like we saw earlier, to the person with those words. Even expressing it out loud to yourself has noted positive benefit. Reflection or meditation, or call it what you want, take some time, even when you're not writing it down, even in the middle of the day when you're not doing some rehash exercise in your journal. Whoa. Okay, how am I feeling right now? If I'm struggling with something, what is going well? What is working? What can I lean into that is beneficial? And celebrate, like today, where you're with friends and family and you're hopefully telling them these things, but do it more often than once a year. Make it a practice. Make it a habit. Find your way of being consistent with this. Create new traditions and focus on action. Volunteer, write thank you notes. Be kinder to those who are serving you. Perform random acts of kindness. You have nothing to lose except maybe a little bit of time, money, or energy. But I think the benefits you'll get back and that you're spreading out in the world will be beautiful and worthwhile. And so that's it. Let me just say, as a last thank you, what I am so grateful for, what I am aware of, what I have been reflecting on is this platform. I have the opportunity, like we did just a week ago, to raise $3,000 for cancer research. And we're going to be doing more of that kind of stuff. I have the ability to help many of you that are doubting and deconstructing. And yes, there's the debate side of it. And yes, there's the crazy Christian comments. And yes, there's the arguments against God. But ultimately, I feel very proud and humbled and grateful to be able to be in a position where what I share is meaningful and helpful. That gives me meaning. I'm grateful for that. It's reciprocal. It's good. So thank you to everyone who watches and shares and supports and gives and likes and comments and does all the things. Thank you for being a part of this. I hope that I say thank you sincerely more than just once a year. I try to do it often, but here it is again. I'll see you Sunday with a new video. And until then, keep being grateful.
I wanted to personally thank my top tiers of support: my Iconoclast, Ann, Boris, GVI, Jason, Joe, Kitboga, Perry, Rocket, and Sean; my Humanist Heroes, Imposter, James, Jared, Christy, and Thronus; my Atheist Advocates, Caleb, David, Jeff, Jeffrey, Lisa, Mrs. Webb, Paul, Sparky, and Todd; as well as all of my Secular Scholar patrons. If you believe in the mission of the channel or you just enjoy its content, please consider joining these fine people. Thanks and have a great day.